Hello, tribe, and welcome to today's live. Today, we are talking about how to heal and end the cycle of unhealthy and toxic relationships. This has been one of the most requested topics since the day that I started this group, and I am very, very excited to dive into this with you. We all deserve love, we all deserve to be treated right, and we all deserve to be in a healthy and beautiful environment. Even when we're talking about our relationships, which is like it's the most one of the most important things we can have in our lives, right? Because how many hours, days, years can we spend with a partner? Anyways, before I dive deep into this, I just want to tell you, if you are live, please say hello. Actually, let me. Oh, I see that Sima is already live. Let me tag everyone because I know how excited you were about this live. Everyone, we're live, so everybody can know that we're live. So exciting to see. Hello, Roberta. So excited to see you all. Really beautiful. So, yes, here we are talking about healing and ending the cycle of toxic and unhealthy relationships. We're going to go dive deep into this. We're going to make a distinction of what unhealthy is, what toxic is. You know, I love concepts and making sure that we're all on the same page. So, we're going to be diving deep into this. And then I am going to share with you some strategies, some insights that I really wanted to share with you today, because these are the things that made the complete difference for me and also for my clients. And I have to be honest here, this is actually the first time that I sit down and I share all these concepts at once. And when it comes to like relationships, like romantic relationships, this is the first time that I actually sit down. Usually these are conversations that I have with my partner, conversations that I have with my clients, and ways of thought and different strategies that I have implemented in order to be able to let go of the pattern of unhealthy relationships that I was in, in order for me to actually be able to find a partner who is healthy and loving and all of that we want, but B, that I could also have the space to receive it, right? Now, this is the master class for you if you are tired of ending with the same situation in the same situation over and over again, or the same type of person. How many of us dated the same person over and over again? Like in my case, just unavailable people were like my cup of tea. You know what I mean? So if you are tired of these types of patterns, you are at the right masterclass. If you are ready to hold space for a new relationship, I know many of you are healing and are growing and expanding, and all of that expansion, you feel like you are ready to get into a new relationship, but you're like, okay, but with the amount of crazy people out there, and I'm scared that I'm going to fall into the same traps, this is a masterclass for you, because we're going to be talking about all of this, and we're going to be talking about the way to address all of these fears that you have, right? And please feel free to leave me comments or leave me questions as I speak, so we can have this kind of like a conversational style, and I really want to try to help you, okay? Okay, all right, let me see the comments. Are we talking about it now or in a workshop? Seema, this is like an interesting question that you ask. I feel like this is a beautiful masterclass to have, but actually I am going to give you the information, all of the information today here inside of the group. I had so many things to share about this, and maybe this will in the future become a workshop or a course, but hey, we're here in the group. I was ready to share this information, so let's get it cracking. I'm glad you asked this question, because as I was seeing all of this, I was like, this is really a lot. So you know what? I have my water. I made a cup of tea. You make a cup of tea as well. And get comfy, because we're going to get started and we're going to do this today. And if I see this is too much, maybe we are going to just cut this into two parts. Seema, I'm thinking 45 minutes. That's my hope. That's what I hope. Okay, 45 minutes. That's how I think it's going to be. If we have more questions, then it's going to be a little bit more. Hi, Audrey. Hi, Lucy. Seema's drinking. I try. That's what I should have done, but now I'm hot, you know. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the purpose of this masterclass. I have three purposes, and I want to try and focus on these. I want us to learn real life strategies. Let me see my notes. Where are my notes? Where are my notes? The thing is about I want to give us real life strategies to actually be able to cope with the patterns that we have and that we often repeat, right? Because I've heard so many people talk about how to let go of unhealthy relationships and that, and I understand how that can sound so foreign that it doesn't apply to our lives. So I am going to really try and give us real life strategies, okay? I want to teach you strategies that you can put in place so you never ever again date a toxic person. Like my purpose with this masterclass is that you take all of this information and start doing the work so you will never ever ever date a toxic person again or be in a toxic relationship. Okay, that's my, I know it's a big goal, but I know we can do it because we are already here doing the work, right? And I want to empower ourselves to date healthy and break all these toxic dynamics that I can be a part of. You know, like I sometimes I have to call myself out on things that I do, and that's perfectly human and okay. But what better way of dealing with this than being aware, right? So speaking of being aware, let's talk a little bit about what is a toxic relationship and what is an unhealthy relationship, because there is a difference, right? Even though you can find some toxic traits in an unhealthy relationship, a toxic relationship is way, way worse. A toxic relationship is a relationship where it can cause you actually real harm and real distress in your life, right? You can experience emotional harm, in some cases, physical harm. And when we're talking about unhealthy relationships, we're just talking about some interactions and some dynamics that are not healthy and are going to um, influence your well-being and the well-being of your partner, right? When we're talking about this unhealthy relationship, usually it's something that maybe if there is compatibility, you can work it out if the two of you are ready to work on the relationship and on themselves, right? Now, when we're talking about toxic relationships, now we're getting into the harmful, damaging, really like draining relationship, right? We're talking about like endangering your well-being, and this is something that we are trying to prevent over here, right? Now, mind you, some unhealthy relationships are going to have toxic relationship traits, right? So let me go through. I've made a list of these toxic traits in a relationship so we can kind of like know what we're talking about. And I think it's so important to talk about this because many of us have been through a toxic relationship and we didn't think we were in a toxic relationship, right? Because we tend to kind of diminish what we've been through. And I feel like the first step to actually be able to break these cycles is to acknowledge what is that happened before. In what types of situations were we in? Okay, so I have a list of 10 traits. I'm just gonna read the traits to you. Maybe we can start by doing an exercise and thinking about, okay, was I ever in a relationship where I experienced this? I think it's a beautiful exercise. And while I was writing the traits, I was thinking about some of the relationships that I was in, and it was interesting because, as I said, we tend to diminish what we go through, right? So what kind of key characteristics are we talking about when we're talking about a toxic relationship? We're talking about manipulation and control. We're talking about lack of respect. We're talking about emotional abuse. We're talking about jealousy, possessiveness, right? Lack of support, constant conflict and drama. My least favorite part of a toxic relationship. I hate conflict. I hate drama. Oh gosh. Lack of support. You cannot hold these people accountable, so there is no accountability. There is emotional or physical neglect. When it's like, for example, when I read this about toxic relationships, I was like, okay, physical neglect, what does that even mean, right? So physical neglect is more your partner does not care about your physical well-being. For example, you go to a concert and it's freezing cold and you are extremely uncomfortable, and the person doesn't even bat an eye because they don't care about your physical well-being. So this, of course, this can be like extreme, or it can be like a soft version, right? And this is the place where we have to like check in with ourselves and think about, okay, what does soft mean? What does strong mean? And I think it's important to say that for people who have been through a lot in life and we struggle to connect with our emotions and with our bodies, sometimes we think that something is light when in reality is not. So that's why I like to give you, the concepts and the things so we can actually think about, okay, I've been through it. That's the kind of thing I don't want to go through again. And the last thing that I wanted to tell, last two things are fear and intimidation. They're quite obvious, right? Most of the time. And then imbalance of power. So the purpose of this masterclass is that you never, ever, ever go into a situation like this again in your life where you have, three of these. Yeah, maybe one. So for some of them, I'm like not even one. But yes, so that's the purpose of the masterclass. All right. Now that we've seen what is it that we don't want, what is it that we're trying to break over here, we're going to be talking about what can we do. What can we do? And before we move on, I want to know in the comments. You don't need to give me specifics, but was there a time in your life where you were a victim of one of these things? I mean, I think many of us were going to say yes, right? Many of us are going to say yes. And were you surprised when you thought about your relationship to actually recall all of that? Yeah. Okay, now we're going to skip to the good part. We're going to skip to how exactly it is that you can end the cycle of unhealthy and toxic relationships. And by the way, also let me know in the comments, is this making sense? Are you making the connection between like, okay, I know what unhealthy means, I know what toxic means, and when I think about my past relationships, I can see some key characteristics that were part of these relationships that I don't want to have anymore, right? This is really, really important. So let me know in the comments if you're in, if you are getting it, okay? Now, this is the part where we actually sit down and do the work. Listen, this is deep work. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is deep work because, I'm not obviously not like a relationships coach, and I'm not here like giving you advice, do this for the guy and whatever. I am all for deep work. Why? Because I know that deep work is going to ensure that you never ever again get into a situation where you are not supposed to be, right? Because you catch it straight away and you're just gonna go. Now, as I said, I have so many things to share with you. I have 10 pointers over here. So some of them probably like very straightforward, and others are going to be a little bit more deep. And if this sounds familiar to you, what I invite you to do is to look a little bit deeper. Because if you are here, that's because you know there is something to be done. There is work to be done. So if this something rings a bell, and you're like, I've done that already, just try and go a little bit deeper. You know what? Like, it's so funny because before I've met my new partner of like almost 5 years, I was doing a lot of healing work. I was doing a lot of personal growth work, and I thought that like I was healed and whatever. And I got into a relationship with a guy again who was not very present, right? He was very absent. He loved traveling. Like he even had a car where only two people could fit. That should be a sign. But anyways, so I thought I was healed until one day I was just like all of a sudden was dumped, which was a blessing. And I have to say, you know what, Erica, like you are here again feeling abandoned. And like there's something obviously that you need to look at. There's something that you obviously need to heal, because So I started digging and I did conscious uncoupling, which is something that I usually do with my clients a lot when they come from an unhealthy relationships. It's interesting because I get a lot of clients that come right after a divorce or a breakup, right? It is interesting, but at the same time, it's normal because you have something like severe happening and then you go and look for help. And I love working with these women because, I mean, it's beautiful to see how you can heal and then eventually you'll find a new relationship and you'll just live happily, right? Okay, kind of deviating from here, but if you, yeah, just open your heart and your mind a little bit. Now, when we're talking about ending the cycle, I believe that the first thing, okay, first part, we kind of did it here already. It is the awareness. It is you knowing, okay, this has been a pattern and I want to change this pattern, right? So first part, we kind of did it here. And I invite you to actually mentally or even writing down that you are ready to break the cycle. If you want to write it in the comments, please do so. Oh, yeah. Okay, so number one, besides being aware, we have got to start being honest with ourselves with where we are right now when it comes to relationships, right? The thing about me going into relationships was that, yes, I was doing the work and everything, but I never actually sat down to acknowledge the fact that I had no idea how to deal with a healthy relationship. So even if I would have met the best guy ever, I would probably not find him attractive because boring, right? I would not know what to do with that because I did not have the best examples growing up. So at the beginning of my journey of being like, okay, I do want to find love. I do know that I deserve more than this, which is something that happens when you start healing, right? You start realizing that, you know what, like I deserve more. So what I started doing was like being really honest with myself and just realizing where I was when it came to relationship and admit it and be like, okay, I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know how to do this, right? And I'm not telling you to say this out loud and then give up on relationships. That's not the idea. The idea is to empower you to just acknowledge the point that you are so you can move on. And when you acknowledge, okay, this is the part that I struggle with in relationships, then you can move on and work on this. And then the next relationship you have is going to be completely different because you worked on this certain part, right? Or the type of people that you meet is going to be different, or you're going to start noticing different people because you've done that work, right? So step number one here is really being honest with yourself. And you know what, like sometimes it's not just the other person who's toxic. I'm not saying this is your specific situation, but as I said, an unhealthy relationship can have toxic traits, right? A healthy relationship can have toxic traits from now on. The thing is like realizing that these traits are there and deal with them. So maybe we're being toxic in some in some situations. Maybe we are being toxic in some instances, and we need to take a look at that. I know that maybe this is a tough, like, pillow to swallow, but we have to be, as I said, honesty. The truth will set you free. And sometimes it's us. You know, I realized, for example, that I was putting myself in situations that I shouldn't be in, right? And I had to take responsibility for it. Okay, so strategy and step number one is going to be you being honest with yourself when it comes to putting yourself in vulnerable situations, to putting yourself in relationships. Just, you know, assess yourself and be like, okay, now there is another strategy that I can share with you that is going to help you with step number one, which is being honest with yourself. Because some of us don't even know where we stand, right? So, in order for you to know where you stand, you have to take a look at the beliefs that you have when it comes to relationships, right? And I know that some of us, we hear sentences or quotes like, love hurts, relationships are a struggle, and maybe you brush it up, maybe you don't pay too much attention, but are you drinking from those affirmations? Are you actually buying into it? What exactly do you believe about relationships? I used to believe that love hurts. I used to believe that relationships are a struggle. And guess what? I was amazingly and happily surprised to see that no, healthy relationships are absolutely no struggle. Life is a struggle, it is difficult, but when it comes to a healthy relationship, it's not a struggle. You're not struggling all the time. Maybe you have a thing or two that you need to talk about, that you need to tune into each other and talk, and but a struggle, nah. And that's now, this is my truth, right? This is my truth, and this is what has been happening for the past almost 5 years. But of course, we need to take a look at, like, okay, what is it that I believe about relationships that may be stopping me from actually getting into a healthy relationship? Because if you think all relationships are hard, and if you find somebody who's giving you a hard time, that's just how relationships are. And I remember a time where I really believed in this, right? And I used to sit down with my friends and they're like, yeah, love is complicated and stuff like that. And we would just like dwell in all that and believe in those lies and just make excuses for people who are absolutely toxic, right? So here's the thing, and I laugh about it, but it's just like, it's funny to think about the thoughts that we have inside our minds that don't even belong to us. We just heard it over and over again, and we just assume it was true. But is it? Right? Now, these these thoughts can come from many places, right? Maybe this is society. Maybe it's in the content that you consume. Sometimes I look at the internet and I'm like, so many videos of betrayal. Did you notice that people who are in healthy relationships usually are not talking about their relationships a lot, but you find all these videos and you believe that you are in a world where like everybody suck, right? When in reality it's not like that. And then we also need to think about what we have learned in one of the most important relationships that you have seen or not seen, right? Or observed, your parents. What did you learn from your parents? You may say, like I used to say, that, you know what, I am going to do different, right? But one thing is saying and trying to do different, and then a different thing is actually doing the tremendous work that it takes to do different, right? Because when you are a kid, you are in a very vulnerable moment. So what happens is that it's not the same as somebody tells me, you know what, Erica, like now with 38, somebody tells me, okay, you know, Erica, relationships are really hard. And I'm like, I don't agree with that. They don't have to be hard, right? And another thing is when you are a little kid. When you're a little kid, you're a sponge, your brain is forming. So everything you're going to think it's true about life, either it's right or wrong, you are going to assimilate it. So it's important to sit down and look at what you observed in your parents, right? And all of these beliefs that you assimilated. A beautiful exercise is just stream of thought and sit down and write it down. Write it down, just let it, and you will be surprised at the amount of beliefs that you don't even want to carry anymore. But this is a beautiful step for you to start shifting how you view relationships and actually start opening yourself to more healthy, fulfilling, and loving relationships. Okay? So this was strategy number 2. Go back to what is it that you believe about relationships because of your experiences, because of what your parents showed you, did not show you, what they told you, because of society, the content. Let's pay attention to all of that. Okay, let me take a look at the comments because I think I have a question. Does this apply to romantic relationships or friendship too? Okay, can you give us some example of toxicity in platonic relationship? Yeah, absolutely. I believe that the way they say how you do one thing is how you do everything. So this is specific for romantic relationships. This is what we're talking here about. But you can apply these concepts for friendships as well. It is very easy for a friendship to become toxic, right? Toxic relationships, they exist in all realms, right? And we can have toxic relationships with our families. Many of us have those, right? And in friendships as well. So what I told about the key characteristics of a toxic relationship, it applies also to friendships, Seema. That's a beautiful question, actually. So if we're talking about if your friend is manipulative, there's lack of respect, they're abusing you emotionally, they don't support you, like friendships are supposed to be supportive, you know. So if you go back to the key characteristics of a toxic relationship, I think I'm gonna make this into a little post so you can actually check it out. It applies, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. If you feel all of these characteristics in a friendship, then yeah, then it's a toxic relationship. Okay, I hope this was useful. All right, so let's jump into number three. All right. So number three is is the one where you need to set some time aside, have some chai, get a notebook, light some candles, and do the work. Or you can also do this work with support. I'm here for you. You can send me a DM. I'm so used to doing this work with my clients as well. Just and it's all about reflecting back on your relationships, right? And trace a pattern in what happens in these relationships, right? When is it that you start abandoning yourself? Where is it that you get triggered? Where is it that you start listening to your intuition? Just go back into into your old relationships, and let me tell you one thing. When I tell you to trace back all your relationships, I really mean it. And I mean it even more now that I've done the work of unconsciously coupling. I've done this work, and I did it with an ex-partner that I thought it was like a bad situation, and then I did with an ex-partner that we ended up things amicably. Everything went great. We were not compatible, but guess what? I was actually still healing. I was still hurting from that. And if I haven't just gone all the way back, I would not be able to heal what I needed to heal in that relationship, right? Because that relationship, even though it was a little bit toxic. See, I'm diminishing things. It had some toxic traits. To be honest, it wasn't like it was just had some toxic traits. And what happened to me was like, okay, it wasn't that bad. So what is there to heal? But I felt abandoned in that relationship. Okay, and that spoke to a wound that I have carried for decades, to be honest, for decades. So reflect back on your relationships when you have time. Listen, this is deep work, so that doesn't mean that you have to sit down and just do all relationships at once. If that's your style, do it. If you feel inspired, do it. If you take a weekend for yourself and you want to kind of retreat, do that work. Always checking in with yourself, making sure that you feel safe in your body and that you are ready to do the work, right? But yeah, take a look at all the relationships that you had and notice where the unhealthy pattern is starting to show up. Where did you, like all the red flags that you ignored? I want you to start looking into this. And you know, I'm a coach. I love empowering you. I love moving forward. I love saying, let's go, let's thrive, let's level up. What's next? But the thing is, we cannot move to next unless we heal what happened, right? So we really need to look at this. And what I'm also going to say is this is not a shaming activity. This is not for you to judge yourself. This is for you to look at what happened in your relationships, but from different eyes and different perspectives, so you can analyze what happened and start doing different, right? I could tell you my experience, but the thing is, only you know about your experience. Obviously, if we're in a coaching session, I can guide you. But the thing here is, the main thing is that you are able to trace, now that you know the toxic traits, and we spoke about it, the 10 toxic traits that I just presented to you, and you can come up with more, now that you know all these traits, reflect back. When did you see the signs? What made you ignore the signs? Were there red flags? When did you ignore that? When did you start abandoning yourself? For me, it's the biggest. If you can answer only one question when it comes to old relationships that you were in, just answer this question and think about, when did you start abandoning yourself? I think this is the most powerful question, because if you know it, if you know the answer to this question, you know when things start going south, right? When things started going south. Okay, let me sip some water. You are so welcome, Seema. Okay. All right. Now, we spoke about, let's be honest with ourselves, right? Where we are right now. Let's get back and think about our beliefs. What does our belief system say about relationships? Number 3, let's reflect back on our relationships, all of them, or at least the important ones. Okay, now, then we need to start going into, this is all the deep work, and then let's start going into more practical real life thingies, right? So, number 1, we need to do not let trauma override your intuition, right? As people who have been through trauma or traumatic situations, difficult situations, I don't care what you call it. If you've been through toxic relationship, if you've been through different types of trauma, there is part of you that has an automatic response to certain situations, right? Meaning people pleasing, I abandon myself, I fight, whatever that is, you have that response, right? And all of these responses are automatic. And what happens when we have all of these responses, they're automatic, and we are acting on survival, right? And we all want to be loved. When we're starting to get to know somebody, there is this fear of not being loved, of not being enough, not being worthy, right? This is so normal and human. Now, the thing is, when you go through trauma, we have this tendency to do what's necessary to be loved, to not steer the pot, right? Even though our intuition is screaming at us. Now, deep healing work is going to help you ignore what your inner child or what your little hurt child is saying, or what your traumatized version of you is saying, right? You are going to hear all of this, but you're not going to ignore your gut and your intuition. So this is a reminder for you to know that you do have your intuition. And in order for us to have a healthy relationship, to know a healthy person and allow this person to come in, we need to start learning. We need to start learning how to listen to this intuition, okay? Sometimes I stumble on my words, but I think you got me, right? We need to listen to our intuition. And I know this may sound kind of generic, But I want us to go deeper. I want us to think about what is the reason in your situation why you keep ignoring your intuition, right? I know that me coming from childhood trauma, I was never allowed to cater to my needs. My needs did not matter. So I learned to just ignore what my body said, right? And I needed to reprogram myself to be able to listen to my body, right? So what I need you to think about is to think about why is it that it's so hard for you to listen to your intuition? Because we know how many of us, like, listen, when we ended that relationship, didn't we know? Right? We knew. So what we need to change things this time around is to actually listen and get out. Now, what I wanted to share with you after really connects with this, which is, in order to listen to this intuition, in order to honor our values, in order to honor ourselves, we need to learn how to connect with our body and our emotions, right? And here in the group, I talk about this all the time. I think in every masterclass that we have, if you want to heal from trauma, if you want to break any cycle, first step is connecting with yourself and your emotions, right? That's what we need to do. And in this particular case, since we're talking about romantic relationships, and as Seema said, this can go also for friends as well, right? We need to learn, it's so interesting. We need to learn that butterflies in the stomach, right, are actually not a good thing. And many of you are going to be like, what? But it's so cool, like this feeling of nervousness. I really want you to meet somebody that maybe you are nervous at the beginning because you're getting ready to go and see them. But once you see them, you actually feel calm, because that's how love is supposed to feel. It's supposed to feel like a safe space. It's not supposed to feel like this arousal, right? I realized, like, in my last relationship, like, I was anxious. At the beginning, I was like, oh, like, yeah, butterflies, and the disconnect that we have with our bodies sometimes, it's crazy. But yeah, I used to think like, oh, butterflies. No, I was actually anxious every time I used to meet this guy, you know. So yeah, connecting with our bodies and actually listening to what is going on besides of the everything that is good, because it's exciting, right? Meeting a new person. And there's also something really important to be said here, which is your brain and your body, they have a memory of what are the feelings and the emotions that you carried the most throughout your childhood, right? And when, like, our body likes familiarity, everything is the same, even though it's not healthy, right? So when you have all these emotions and the arousal and then it's butterflies, sometimes it's actually not good, and we need to take a look into it and see, like, am I really excited? Is this person giving me anxiety? Like, check in with yourself, okay? I'm sure that all stories of love are different, and this is not the truth of all. And yes, maybe you can go through some stress in your relationship, but as a survivor, I really want you to take care of yourself, because we have the tendency to tone down what we're feeling and normalize things like anxiety, depression, being mistreated. So really pay attention to that if you don't want to end up in an unhealthy situation again. Yeah. Oh, look at Seema. Love is not blind. Infatuation is. It's just at first sight. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my God. Don't tell me the words love is not blind, because then I start thinking about Love is Blind, which I'm like seeing all the episodes and I'm like, no, don't do that. So many red flags. Yes, absolutely. Pay attention to all that, and most trust yourself. You know all these things, right? And if you think about, maybe I'm saying this and you're thinking, yeah, but I've made so many wrong choices. Like, why should I trust my intuition now? First, when you made those choices, maybe you were not connected to your intuition, right? And then we just spoke about everything that you need to do to get to a point where you can actually trust your intuition, which is doing the deep healing work, right? Looking at the patterns so you can not do that again. Everything that we spoke, when we put them in conjunction, you're going to see that you're going to be a superpower and you're going to do healthy relationships in a very natural way. Of course, now it sounds like, oh, I need to see what I believe in, and then I need to do healing work. It sounds like a lot, but just think that this is something that you are going to have. Eventually, it's going to be automatic to you. I'm serious. I'm serious. It's going to be automatic. If you work on it, it's going to be automatic. Okay. Now, let me see how many things do we have to talk about? Okay. I think I can do it. I can do it. Okay. So where were we? All right, we just need like 4 more. I brought all the strategies with me today, okay? I'm not playing around. I love that show. Yeah, me too. Okay, now this is a very practical tip, and I thought that this is important to say because I see my friends struggling with this, and I remember how hard it was for me at the beginning. And this is very, very practical. Yes, we need to do inner work. Yes, we need to make sure that we're doing different things. We're doing things different and we're being more healthy, right? But let's also accept that this is a big world, right? And in this big world, you will eventually meet people who are actually not healthy. And it has nothing to do with you. You may meet toxic people. Now, the thing is, let's get to a point where we meet these people, right? And this kind of takes me back to the way I was feeling before, when I was looking for a partner and stuff. Let's get to a point where you meet these people and you say like, okay, no, this is not for me. And you don't take it personally. You just move on with your life, right? So remember, there are many people in this world, right? And you're going to find some people that are not compatible, and that's totally okay. Now, the thing, let's not let our past trauma, our insecurities get in the way and make us believe that we should be there because there's nothing more available, because there's a lot available. And if we don't waste our time with these people that are not for us, then we will be available for the people who actually are. Okay? I really love this tip because it took me a long time to not blame myself for the people who came to me. Like, people will be peopling. There are a lot of people out there. Just don't bite it. The secret here is like, don't bite it. Okay? Another practical thing that we need to do. Start acting differently. Remember when I told you, get back and look at when is it that you start abandoning yourself? When is it that you started doing things differently? When is it that you started meaning differently in a way that was detrimental to you? So remember when I told you that? Now it's time to do different. If you know that you have this tendency to go with a certain type of guy, girl, whatever, do different. Try to go to different places. Try to have conversations with different types of people and open yourself up. If the old way is not working, it is time to try something new, right? That's exactly what I did, and it worked. So give it a try, okay? Give it a try. Let's try and do things differently. Literally, I really like in caps, do things differently, but like literally, okay? All right, so we're getting to the end here. 2 more things that I want to share with you. Really, really important. I think this is one of those masterclasses that you may want to get back to the masterclass, take some notes, chill a little bit, see what is it that you need to work on more, because some of the things here you may be working on this, and some of the things you may be, you may need to take a look at, right? So just take it easy, and yeah, okay. So, so long, is this making sense? Is this making you just like feel some light bulbs in your brain being like, oh, ta-da, I needed to hear this? If yes, I want to know in the comments, okay? So let me know down below in the comments. I don't know what's happening to my camera. Is my camera okay? I see like the internet is not like really good, but anyways, I trust that you can hear me perfectly. All right. Okay, last couple of things that I wanted to tell you that are going to help you heal and end the cycle of unhealthy relationships, right? When it comes to relationships, we usually are told to make a list, think about what you want. And I think that's amazing. But I think that's just part one of what you're supposed to be doing. So, part one is yes, make a list of everything that you want in a guy. Okay, I'm not talking about physics, I'm talking about emotionally. How do you want to feel? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And then I want you to grab that list and start being that person. Start being that person who love yourself unconditionally. Start being that person who actually shows up. Start showing up for yourself. Start being that person who actually is reassuring towards herself, right? And the reason why I say this is if you give yourself all of these things that you need, right? When you are looking for a partner, you are not looking to fulfill a void. You are looking to expand, right? And that's why I love the fact that, you know what, we should become what we want to receive. And I believe this is true for all areas of your life, right? All areas of your life. And when it comes to relationships, I have the same belief that you should become what is it that you want to receive, right? If you want to receive kindness and if you want to meet somebody kind, start being kinder to yourself. And you're going to get into this vibration where you're going to meet the person who vibes with that. Even if you're not spiritual, you know what I mean? We have a certain type of energy that we walk around, and people can sense that energy. So if you're confident, if you are taking care of yourself, toxic people, they don't want to go after you. If you are extremely confident, if you have boundaries, if you're like kind, they have there's no room for them in your life, right? So make that list, but make it a mission for you to become that, right? Talking about the emotional, the other things, the physical or whatever, yeah, right? Why not? Ask away. The universe is amazing. Okay, now last thing, really, really important one. All of these are important, and I still feel like this should be a bigger conversation. And let me give you my strategy number 10, and then let's continue the conversation. So, strategy number 10 is to write down your boundaries and have, was the other way around, write down your non negotiables and have clear boundaries. We had a beautiful masterclass on boundaries. I would have to look it up, but I think it's on our last challenge, Free Your Badass Self Challenge. If you're struggling with boundaries, but I do believe I believe and I know we need to have clear boundaries when we're getting into relationships. And one of the things that saddens me the most is when I see people who are on the right path with their growth, with their healing, right? And then they meet somebody, and all of a sudden they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing to feel more balanced, right? And for me, just it it makes me, I didn't want to say annoyed, but it really annoys me when this happens to us. And I'm talking for myself as well, because it took me a long time to get this right and to be able to be open, to be like, you know what, in the morning, like I need an hour for myself. Don't talk to me. I'm going to be meditating, stretching. I'm going to be writing. Don't talk. You know what I mean? Um, you need to have these boundaries clear, because when we're talking about getting into a healthy relationship, first of all, you have to be healthy, right? And when you start abandoning yourself and your habits and what makes you feel better and more centered and more you, if you abandon those habits, then you start making other decisions that are not going to be, good for you. And then you start getting into situations, because I feel more, for example, I know as a survivor, and lately I'm embracing the fact that like I'm highly sensitive. I know that I need more rest. I know that I need more resets, right? And if all of a sudden I stop doing everything that I'm doing to be able that I'm self-regulated, I'm going to make bad decisions probably, because I'm not going to be in my being, right? I'm not going to be able to be connected to my intuition that often. I'm not going to sleep well. So, and this is going to propel, and it's going to turn out in a disaster when I think about it. So be clear on your boundaries and be really clear on what are your non-negotiables. And if you have that discipline to do this without a partner, you should have this discipline to do it with your partner. And this goes for anybody who has a partner right now, right? If you have a partner, you can also start thinking about, and I know that I said at the beginning of this masterclass, and I truly believe that this is good advice also for people who have a relationship, because you don't want to go into having, toxic traits into your relationship. And when it comes to non-negotiables, you are on this healing path, right? And you probably want to implement some habits, and you may be thinking, okay, but does that fit our lifestyle together? But in some instances, you have to prioritize you. So that's why it's so important for you to have your non-negotiables and for you to have your boundaries, and knowing that these boundaries are going to change, and you should be flexible in that, right? So as I was telling you, this is just scratching the surface. Relationships are so simple, but at the same time so complicated, because we are dealing with things that happen to us in our childhood, the weight of trauma, our limiting beliefs, our past experiences, right? And when we do this work, it is normal that we kind of don't know where to start. So if you, we spoke about 10 strategies right here, right? And beautiful strategies. So think about what is it that you need to work on, and just go bit by bit. And I also invite you to work on this at the coaching seat. Because if you have a coach by your side, you can unpack this a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, and be able to implement all of those strategies way quicker than trying to figure it out by yourself, right? And make this your normal and your day to day. And this is me, and this is how I navigate life, right? So I do have one-on-one seats for you. So if you are thinking about bettering your relationships, right? Either you're looking for a partner, you have a partner, you want to be healthier, or if you want to better the relationship with yourself, because I mean, what we've been talking here about is all about bettering the relationship with yourself. It's about being honest, about doing the healing work, about learning to listen to your intuition, to trust yourself enough to know that love is out there, you are as worthy as anybody else, and not falling into the unhealthy patterns again. I mean, this is personal, deep work. And I believe that this is the work that is going to actually help you have healthy relationships with your partner, husband, friends, everybody. And most importantly, with yourself. So if you want to know more about how we can work together, how I can help you with this, just send me a DM with the word relationships, because the masterclass is all about relationships, because otherwise I don't know what you're talking about. Send me a DM with the word relationships, and let's talk about it. As you may know, I never charge first session, because we need to get to know each other, and I need to know your story, and we need to vibe together. I try to have healthy, vibing, awesome relationship with my clients, so I need to make sure it aligns both for you and me. So yeah, send me that DM. Let's talk about it, and let's go deeper, because this is scratching the surface. This is a lot. I will think about, what do you think about having a course on this, or a workshop? Because I realize that I do have a lot to say. Okay, beautiful people. Okay, 55 minutes. I went a little bit overboard, but I wanted to make sure that I gave you the strategies that I promised I was going to give you. And I hope that you found value in this masterclass, and that this is going to help you never date a toxic person again, because you deserve love, you deserve healthy fulfillment, right? You deserve to have fulfillment in your life. And part of it is, there's nothing wrong about being single. I do believe there's nothing wrong about being single. And if you are not single, I believe that this person needs to make you feel better about life. This person needs you to be like, okay, life is not bad after all. The world is crumbling down, but I have my rock over here, right? So that's what I really wish for you. I hope that you got value from this masterclass. Drop me any questions below. I love questions. They make me think, they make me go a little bit further. And as I said, here I give you content, right? And when you ask me questions, I can see where you're coming from and give you a little bit more context, which is exactly one of the things that we need to go a little bit deeper. Okay? All right, I will let you go. It is so hot over here. My God, I think I look like it's all good here, but it's really hot, tribe. It's really hot. Okay, so I'm gonna let you go. Remember, you are worthy because you were born worthy, so you better start acting like it. Bye.